Edward Norton Lorenz was an American mathematician and meteorologist who established the theoretical basis of weather and climate predictability, as well as the basis for computer-aided atmospheric physics and meteorology. Now, he is best known as the founder of modern chaos theory. This is a branch of mathematics focusing on the behavior of dynamic systems that are highly sensitive to initial conditions and were once thought to have completely random states of disorder and irregularities. Now, chaos theory states that within the apparent randomness of chaotic complex systems, there are underlying patterns, interconnection, constant feedback loops, repetition, self-similarity, fractals, and self-organization. Now, the butterfly effect, an underlying principle of chaos, describes how a small change in one state of a deterministic nonlinear system can result in large differences in a later state, meaning that there is sensitive dependence on initial conditions. Now, a metaphor Lorenz stated in 1963 for this behavior is that a butterfly flapping its wings in Brazil can cause a tornado in Texas. But I want to ask, is there such a thing as a spiritual butterfly effect? Hey guys, welcome to Godly Guy Stuff, a group for guys here to connect and collaborate on how we as men can have a stronger impact on our lives and the lives of those who depend on us. If you're a guy who struggles through life, like me, wondering how to create godly paths that maybe can have a spiritual butterfly effect on your life, make sure you subscribe to be a part of a place that produces content for an iron sharpens iron environment. Now, I've also got a locals community for up-and-coming topics as we continue conversations and for those who wish to, dig deeper in life together. Now, at first thought, the whole idea of a butterfly effect concept seems kind of preposterous. How can something as insignificant as a butterfly influence natural disasters continents away? Now, a metaphor born out of Lorenz's efforts to algorithmically predict the weather, this question encapsulates the essence of chaos theory. By describing how small deviations can trigger momentous events even through time, this metaphor has permeated popular culture. In fact, the infamous saying has made appearances in movies like Spielberg's Jurassic Park, the Pollock's Havana. However, Lorenz's original message is often kind of lost in translation. Lorenz's famous metaphor stemmed from his working in modeling weather patterns. While trying to create a computer algorithm to model the weather, he rounded a 6 decimal input to only 3 decimals. Now, Lorenzo noted that his apparatus was only accurate to 3 decimals, so this edit should have no effect on the simulation, or at least he thought. Nonetheless, this minuscule variation created an entirely different forecast. This simple demonstration of how a system's utter dependence upon initial conditions paved the way for an entirely new branch of mathematics. Now, in his theory, challenges one of the fundamental pillars of science, determinism. Now, determinism is a philosophical view where all events are determined completely by previously existing causes. Deterministic theories throughout the history of philosophy have developed from diverse and sometimes overlapping motives and considerations. Now, the opposite of determinism is some kind of indeterminism, also called non-determinism or just simply randomness. Now, let's get out of the worldly view and begin diving into spiritual realms with this topic. Theological determinism. Now, theological determinism is the view that God determines every event that occurs in the history of the world. Now, I want to focus in on one major issue theological determinists must grapple with, is how there can be any creative freedom in a world in which all events are determined by God. Now, the claim that at least some creatures are both free and responsible for their actions is a central and part of traditional Western theisms, Judaism, Christianity, even Islam. And most contemporary theological determinists affirm this claim. It is simply the concept of free will versus all-knowing and all-powerful God. Now, how do these two concepts merge, and what is the final outcome? Well, first, let's view how the world perceives life without a God to control it all. Is this all random, or is there an underlying process? The world grappling with being alone. In a culture that has all but abandoned the concept of an omniscient being, we must deal with the grappling effects of people who have seemingly been wandering, some for generations, with the concept of being alone, and there is no one out there for help. As one atheist would claim, God, it turns out, was our next to last delusion. Behind him stands the real big bad of Western civilization, one whose fall will usher in the true modern age of humanity. When we finally emerge from the tide pools of Victorianism, we've convinced ourselves are the end all of secular progress, and start figuring out just what an elegant machine can do once it has accepted and found some source of entertainment and even pride in what it is. For the secularist, God must die in order to proceed. The very fact that God's murder is the groundbreaking for future humanity gives us a clear understanding that the will of man is fraught with the idea of abandonment and sadness. Now, we live in daily with this delusion of ignoring every fact in the front of our faces that God is real, because this is the only way we can place ourselves on the throne of our own lives. There is an innate sadness that comes with the weight of being king, and humanity weeps with this concept because we have no place being on the throne that God alone can hold. Now, the inevitable ending to this frame of mind is depression and ultimately suicide. It is an obvious statement of confusion when people will make claims that are completely founded on determinism, which means that someone or something must have set this in motion, but refused to even acknowledge the concept of God. Now, of course, as Christians, we're not allowed to present this anomaly, yet it is always there, which also means that it is an open door. Now, we need to recognize the real true fact that no matter what philosophies are developed, Christians have the opportunity to present salvation to a world based in determinism, even when they claim to have murdered God himself. Yet, understanding that we live in this type of construct, we as Christians can become very interlaced into this thinking. Now, we easily can fall for the trap that we are king and God has no ruling in our day-to-day life. It's not that hard for us, nor is it that many steps to take to find ourselves in a place where we are in depression with no clear understanding of really what lies ahead. Now, in fact, I would go so far as to say the whole point of determinism is to keep us clouded from our understanding that God is king, and we have a solid place in his presence that is never fraught with a lack of foundation. But we still must answer the questions of theological determinism. And where does the will of man fit into place with a God who is in control of all things, knows all things, and yet somehow we still have free will? It doesn't matter if we pray or do our decisions on day-to-day life truly create a platform that builds for us and gives us opportunities for days ahead. And if it doesn't, then what's the whole point of praying for future blessings? What is the point of praying for our children to find spouses that are built on God's plan and not determinism? What does the great simplifier, the Bible, say of what seemingly is a rather complicated topic? How our spiritual life determines the future. As godly men, we have reached the finality that our existence is not determined by our own hand, but we also have a clear understanding that our eternal presence is dictated by our free will. Now, the conflict between present reality and future hope continually conflicts within our daily mindset as we reach towards an ever-present understanding that there has to be a balance between daily living for Christ and preparing an eternity of worship. It sounds so easy to flippantly pray for a better life, the release of an ailment, or salvation for something as common as a small debt. But daily we tend to trip up when the first signs of conflict arise. And no matter how much training we might have, Satan understands us better than we know ourselves. Now, he devises mechanisms and obstacles that can render us moot in our lives and in those who trust us with their lives. The entire aspect of prayer can become an insignificant portion of our daily life because of this. Now, Satan understands the best ways to connive us is in order to cause us to withdraw from his presence, and we have to have an understanding of why this is wrong. Now, from my perspective, humans love to revel in misery. We have a strong tendency to relinquish all of our armor for a few more seconds of wallowing in our own dejected attributes. And as we have read time and time again in the Bible, prayer releases blessings to those in need at the time it is needed the most. Now, we can read this in Acts chapter 10, verses 3 through 4. One day at about 3 in the afternoon, he had a vision. He distinctly saw an angel of God who came to him and said, "Cornelius." Now, Cornelius stared at him in fear. "What is it, Lord?" he asked. The angel answered, "Your prayers and gifts to the poor have come up as a memorial offering before God." Now, Cornelius is a man praying and giving gifts to the poor, and these actions were seen by God. Now, understand, Cornelius is a Gentile, someone who knows nothing of Christ. And in the passage, as we read further, we see Cornelius' salvation along with those around him. Now, we need to understand the importance of what happens in the story because honestly, it directly correlates with what I'm speaking about now in today's culture. Because God is the same yesterday, today, and forever, Cornelius' actions of praying directly correlated to his revelation of God and his will. If this is not a clear understanding of how someone is capable of receiving clarity in their lives, I honestly don't know what it is. Now, the world is full of determinism and those who wish to blot the concept of God and his will for us out of the progress of redemption. Now, the idea that there is no ultimate deliverer capable of giving us what is best for ourselves is rooted in a very simplistic fallacy. Fortunately, it is the exact opposite. And the solution is literally all of our problems is the same recourse no matter where you are at or what you have done or where you need to go. Now, I have no clue if you are someone at the beginning of your life or still in the educational structure or learning of different programs and thoughts and theories, or you could be like me in the middle of your life developing a family and creating pathways for the future generations. Or you might be in the legacy years of your life as you seek to finish strong. The challenge is the same. Seek God's will. Take steps now which will have direct significance towards plans and objectives which are currently unknown to even you. 1 Chronicles chapter 28 verse 9 sums it up rather eloquently. "And Solomon, my son, learn to know the God of your ancestors intimately. Worship and serve him with your whole heart and a willing mind. For the Lord sees every heart and knows every plan and thought. Now, if you seek him, you will find him. But if you forsake him, he will reject you forever." Wrap up. Mankind has created extremely eloquent and complicated scenarios that make up compelling arguments on the premise that we are alone and that there's absolutely nothing we can do to change our direction in life. We are a wandering boat adrift on the ocean, aimlessly going wherever the wind might take us. Now, determinism requires us to be minuscule cogs in a universal machine that dictates every move and every thought as we traverse this concept of life. No matter what we might do or say, it is inconsequential. But as godly men, we know it's all a farce. The theological determinism even has fallacies written into it, wanting us to believe that God is in control and we are not even the co-pilot. But we must understand we do have free will, and the decisions that you do make matter for now and the future. Now, we must take steps which place us on a pathway that worships the Lord. We must take steps on a pathway that is honoring him. 1 Chronicles dictates we have one of two options. We find him or we are forsaken by him. Godly men, it is time to make godly decisions. Pray, go to church, stop focusing on obstacles and focus on the objective. Our decisions do matter, even the small ones. Make no mistake of this. God is bigger than our imaginations and perceptions of what lies ahead. The prayers and sacrifices you make today will have a spiritual butterfly effect to major implications that will happen in your life sometime in the future. So it means to be prepared for those times when they come. Now it's your turn. Okay, so what did I miss today? Do you believe we're just simply minuscule cogs in a deterministic universe? Or do we have anything that goes beyond our own mere understanding that God actually cares for us, beyond our thoughts and processes? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for listening throughout the entire video, and please, definitely follow me or subscribe and become a member to the Godly Guy Stuff group on Gab. Gab is the launching headquarters of the content which is produced for Godly Guy Stuff. So, if you're watching this on some other platform like YouTube or Twitter or Facebook, you're missing a lot more content. There's also a Godly Guy Stuff Locals community where I post content for upcoming videos. So you can find even more videos there, sneak peeks or deeper personal connections, notes, and a lot of future casting for upcoming ideas. So if you want to see what I'm currently working on, you go to Gab. For upcoming topics, head on over to Locals. Links are in the descriptions for everything. I look forward to talking to you and having the conversation continue. Thanks.